The Lord be with you.
And also with you.
So this morning, search and you will find. We're in the middle of a series called Pick Two, and where we are working to find ways in which we might serve in your community. Several weeks ago, where Andrea Lilly came up with this concept, this idea that we might find a way in which we might pick two ways in which we might serve God through our church. And this sort of idea of, as you notice on the front of your bulletin covers, in the picture up front, these are also Andrea's renderings, and she has come up with this idea around chocolate. Now, one of the things about a box of chocolates is you can make sure that, or you can taste a few pieces of chocolate, and you might like what you taste, and you might try it, and you might say, not so much do I like it, and try something different. And so it's kind of the concept that we're going for here at this year, or this fall in Living Waters, is how is it that we might pick a few things and try them out to see if it is something that we in fact like or do not like to do. And what I'm going to encourage you to do is look through this list for the remainder of the service, the remainder of the sermon, or whatnot, and then pick two things that you're going to try this coming year. It doesn't necessarily need to be soon, it could be later on. But then in the back, the menu is posted like you would come into a restaurant of any sort. And I want you to take, there's some post-it notes there, write your name on it, and put it beside those things that you're going to commit to trying out this year. Now here's the deal, if you try it once and you say, you know what, I really don't like the double coconut-filled chocolates, you don't have to try the next one that's sitting there and just continue to eat them and try to swallow it. You can go on to the double chocolate truffle if that's more to your liking and continue on with that. Find something that really sparks an interest within you. It might be something you've already been doing, or it might be something that sparks a new passion and a new desire to serve in the kingdom of God. And some of the things that you're already doing might already be on that list, but it's trying to find ways in which we might engage more and more people in how we might serve together in the community of God. This week we have a text known as the Golden Rule. In everything, do unto others as you would have them do to you. Now, pay it forward to a relatively new term and phenomenon sparked by a movie of the same name. And though the original intent has been reduced almost to just paying for coffee for the person behind you. Well, that's good. It's a good way to do something. The original assignment, if you go back into that movie, was a vastly richer idea of what it means to pay something forward. The original assignment was to do something good for someone which they wouldn't have been able to do on their own. And then do that for 3 people, and they in turn are encouraged to do that for 3 more people, and then these acts of kindness, these acts of goodness continue to spread as a chain around the world. Now the main character, Trevor, does this 3 different times. The first thing that he does is he welcomes a drug addict into his home. Now remember, Trevor didn't say this, but Trevor is a 7th grader. He really takes this challenge to heart and really goes at it. And so Trevor takes this person in, and it's a risky situation, but he wants to do it. He wants to help provide for this person. And in turn, this man fixes his mother's car, and there's 3 more things that happen, and it starts to spread throughout the region. Trevor then goes on to work at kindling a relationship between his mother and his social studies teacher, and to try to begin a romantic relationship. And he's able to do this because of his connection with both of them. And he sees that they were meant or need each other. And then, in a final act, Trevor stands up for someone who couldn't stand up for themselves. Someone who doesn't have a voice because they've been bullied. Now these are profound and rich actions that Trevor takes that can inspire. So how might we step into some of these risky actions or these challenging actions, this call to do something? What's out of this menu of opportunities, if you will, might you choose to step into in order to serve? Maybe your choices aren't necessarily on this menu. Maybe there's something else that's been nagging you to try and do, try out for the kingdom of God. Well, let's get back to Trevor and what he is doing and look at how we might apply some of these to our own context. The first was Trevor takes on a homeless addict and helps him to find housing to recover. Now, in order to do this, Trevor had to build a relationship with him, get to know him a little bit, and befriend him, and then welcome him in. And because he needed to first understand his need. So, who are some people around you that you might enter into a deeper relationship with in order to learn about them and their needs, and then to help supply for those needs? And it doesn't necessarily have to be a perfect stranger for this to happen. It could be a friend of your child. I was reading a book this past week, and one of the examples that kind of just jumped out at me was this person, the author met with their friend whose son who had like 4 kids, and he's meeting with his friend, and his friend said, "Oh no, now I have 5 children." He's like, "What do you mean 5 children? How'd you get a 5th one in there?" And he said, "Well, I was at my son's baseball game. The baseball game got over. My son said, 'Can my friend, let's call him Joe, come with us? He needs a place to crash for a couple of nights. His stuff's not right at home.'" And so he said, "Sure." And a couple of nights turned into moving in with them because Joe needed a safe home, a place to call home with stability and care and love. And Joe just became naturally one of this guy's sons. And his biological son didn't seem to mind. He just saw it as part of his what needed to happen. And he welcomed him into his room and shared a room and just kind of embraced having Joe in the family. Another friend of mine, it wasn't little children, but a friend of mine for a season had a friend come and stay with them. Another sister in Christ, because they needed something and something they couldn't provide. And there was a place where they could heal and get well, to get the nourishment that they needed, both for food-wise as well as relationship-wise. And so they brought her into their home for a time, for a season where she could live with them and to get healthy and to get well again. And maybe it's not necessarily opening up your home per se, but what about finding someone who's unlike you in walking with them? Maybe someone who struggles and needs a little bit of help. Maybe not so much to fix them, but because you get disappointed, but to just kind of help them along and find some different life experiences. What if you found a recovering addict and decided to help them along this process of recovery by maybe taking them to work and bringing them home from work? And in those car rides, learning about them, thinking about life in a different context and in a different way, but also helping them to get a job, a path that they need, so they can move along the road to recovery. Or maybe it's just spending an hour a week with Kids Hope and mentoring a child in Indian Prairie School each week. Just sitting with them and just being present with them and letting them know that they are loved and cared for. There's several who still have some needs around that as well, just here at Living Waters. So think about that. How it is just 1 hour a week, one child for the school year. Your summer's off. Isn't that great? But it's how do we do that? How do we pay it forward in those different ways? Now, Trevor's second pay it forward was to build relationships between people. And how might we develop, how might we allow ourselves to enter into relationships with other people of caring? How can we connect to others and maybe invite them to Living Waters for worship on a Sunday and then introduce them to 3 or 4 or 5 of our friends here so that they have a network and are connected with others. Or maybe come on Wednesday evening to a connect meal where the intention really is to connect with people and to share life and to just lift up and share concerns and then connect with God as well and as part of that. Or maybe it is actually buying a cup of coffee for the person behind us, but then saying, you know what, I'm going to spend the next 5 minutes talking to this person, being intentional about it, and seeing what might come of that relationship. The last thing that Trevor does was to stand up for those who could not stand on their own. He stands with the disenfranchised. And this can be done for us in many different ways. And we do this through advocacy, through telling and our thoughts on current policy, especially around hunger issues with things like Bread for the World and signing and saying, hey, we want to advocate for those who are hungry. We do this through our work with Foods Resource Bank, teaching those who might otherwise go hungry how to have food for themselves. We do this when we stand with the refugee and welcome those who are fleeing persecution. And we stand with the immigrant, though. We also remember how when our great-grandparents came as immigrants, they didn't always receive a proper welcome. So how do we as the church advocate and help change that story of persecution? My mother often tells the story. She comes from a Polish family background. My grandfather was Polish, 100%. And she tells the story of what that meant growing up and how she was belittled because of her ethnic heritage. And so how do we change that story, that attitude of rejection, so others can be welcomed into our midst? How do we advocate for those who might be disenfranchised? This morning, what might you pick out of this menu of opportunities? What might you choose to do to grow the kingdom of God and to grow yourself in faith, to grow yourself in relationship with others? I want to challenge you to do something you might not have already tried before. And it might be safe and comfortable, but I want to encourage you to try something that you would not have tried otherwise and see how God might be using you in this different way. Might be using the same actions you've been doing, but something new and fresh. So you're encouraged to pick something, anything, but do one thing that you might feel that God is calling you to do. The band's coming on up this morning. I want you to listen to the words of our song this morning. I guess instead of making it way up front. Now, our song this morning is Do Something. And yes, it was chosen as kind of our theme song for this Pick 2 piece. And the words are sung a little quick, so I want to encourage you to try to keep up with it. But in the chorus line, right before the first chorus line, so the singer said, God, I know you do something. And God said, I did. I created you. So what is it that God is calling you to do today? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things might you be doing in order to be God's hands and feet in our world? Let's stand as we sing.